Hey guys, welcome to this session. My name is Ashpreet and today we're going to talk about omission and gap filling. So I guess before we jump into this omission and gap filling thing, it makes sense if we talk a little bit about grammar and we discuss the basic rules that are very important. So I'm going to talk about the modal auxiliary verbs. Let's see what are modal auxiliary verbs. Just have a look on them. So I guess these are those verbs that can be used with the main verbs. For example, I give you the example of can, must, could, would, and so on. These are all the modal auxiliary verbs. I know it's very difficult for you to figure out which one is the appropriate, the right choice whenever we are working on some, omission thing. Omission passage is very difficult to handle most of the time if you're not clear with what modal auxiliaries are. So basically these are the verbs that are used to express, either you talk about some ideas, either you talk about possibilities, maybe you want to ask for permission, talk about necessity, or even obligation. So most of the, you have to take care of the tense of the passage that is given to you. You have to take care, either it's an active voice, either it's an passive voice, is it some authoritarian, extract given to you. So these modal verbs have only one form. These verbs don't add something that is known as S or ES, by which it's very easy to remember. For example, I don't say I cans eat. I don't say I must eat. So that means we don't have S and ES simple form the way it is. You just have to remember where do they fit in and how. What is the basic rule behind them? So basically the modal verbs that we are talking of are followed by an infinitive of another verb without to. I'll give you an example. I'll prove everything right, whatever I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to give you a brief overview. And the negative sentence is formed by using the word, just use the word not, and you're good to go. And even if you have the verbs in question, okay, the verbs in questions are used without doing or do or did in the past. It is that easy. We don't have to complicate with something that uses doing, do, did in the past tense. You just have to stick to this singular form. I think it's very easy for you to remember. So I'm going to give you 5 important things. We're going to discuss the very important 5, modal auxiliary verbs. So let's start with the very first one. These are all the modal auxiliary verbs. Can, will, must, shall, may, could, would, ought to, should, might. So I think everybody thinks like, okay, we can probably interchange can, must, shall, may, but trust me, you cannot. Sometimes you have to stick to the rules. So let's start with can. I'm going to talk about 5 of the modal auxiliary verbs and then we'll try 2 exercises of omission. Let's start. So talk about can. So where can we probably use this modal auxiliary verb, that's can? It's used to express ability. Let's say you guys have the ability to solve that omission exercise that will follow the class. Like we'll probably have it in few minutes. Or I can say you all can speak English. It's not, we don't use the word in English. You don't use you can speak in English. It's like you can speak English. But can you really speak in, let's say, Chinese language? So no, it's your ability. Like, you have a very strong hold if I talk about English. How you're not very confident, or maybe you don't have the ability to talk in or speak Chinese. So fun thing that we've come to know is, whenever you talk about speak, most of us, I would say, have a tendency to say, okay, Ryan or I can speak in English. That's not correct. So two things out here. I can speak English. We don't use anything else. Nothing fits. It's just either you can or you cannot. So Ryan can speak French, that is his ability. So first is you use can with ability. Second is when you have to be very formal, you have to request. For example, let's say you're there in school, maybe you want to request your teacher, ma'am, can you give 2 marks for the question that I've written? Or maybe you want to go out to have water, ma'am, can I go out to have a glass of water? Or maybe, ma'am, can I come in? So that means you want to express request. Similarly, can you help Sui? That means you are trying to request the other person or express a request. So I think it's very clear to you. The very first is ability. That means you have the potential, you have the trait, you can do something. But then you guys have learned that it's not speak in English, it's not speak in German, it's not speak in Chinese. It's just speak French. It's just speak German. Second thing is to express request. I told you, I gave you the example of your school teacher. Let's see where else can we use can. It's used to express permission also. For example, you want to ask for permission. Can I, like I just told you, can I use your cell phone? You can request also, you can express your permission, talk about your permission also. You can't go out with Victor. That means there's a possibility that permission is not given. You've not given permission. You can't. It's not that you shall not go out. It's you can't. You've not been given in this case. Please look into it carefully. It's a permission. You've been denied permission. Whereas you're asking for permission. I hope the difference is pretty clear. Next, to express possibility. Let's write it not possible. If it's possible or not, I'll take it possibility. Do you think it's getting really hot, and do you think it's possibility to rain tomorrow, that we can expect rain? Maybe, maybe not. Similarly, when you have to express possibility, you can say, I can be ready by 5. It's like possible. It is possible. Let's say probably I feel this comment has been made by a girl. I bet you this comment has been made by a girl because she's again not very sure. This possibility. It might be 6, it might be 7, or it might go up till 10 p.m. So, I can be ready. Like, there is possibility. Second possibility is, if the weather is perfect tomorrow, we can go on a picnic. That means this picnic depends on the weather condition. So what we've covered, let's revise once again. We've covered that can is an auxiliary verb which is used in case of ability to express request. Like, you want to express request. Can you please help me? Can I offer you something? You want to, request some other person. Then it's also used for, very good, PP, it's permission and possibility. Let's see once more. Can is also used be able to. For example, be able is used to describe the ability of a person. He can do something in the future. For example, my baby will be able to walk in a few months. Be able means, again, it is a possibility. It's again, ability, I would say, not possibility, but an ability that in the near future you'll expect my baby turns 5 and he'll probably start walking or at least crawling. 5 months. I am busy, but I will be able to walk to you in 10 minutes. Again, you're talking about be able to. That means you're trying to show your ability. The other way to show your ability is using can. So can is used to express a statement that is less uncertain than will. It is uncertain but less uncertain than will. Okay, moving on, let's talk about could. Could is used to express abilities in the past. Something that has happened. Imagine you guys did not do really well in your exams and you're telling, I wish I could have studied for few more hours. Like you're regretting it, but it was you could have been able to do that. It was there. You were having the ability to do that. So, like Jason could do 50 push-ups in 5 minutes when he was young. It was his ability in the past. Similarly, Jason could talk when he was 4. His ability when, you talk about the past. Or maybe it's used to express permission. Could you lend me 2 grants? Again, for permission you can use could also. Third thing where you can use could is to express a future possibility. For example, I say it expresses more uncertainty. For example, I say he could or could not pass the exam. There's a question mark. Could he do this job? Like, you have to discuss the possibility. For example, I could get an A or B in grammar. It depends on the final exam. There's a possibility. But there's an uncertainty attached. There is the case where you talk about could. And even in your present perfect tense, it is used to express something in the past that may be real. For example, I talk about I could have won the game. You could have been killed in that accident. Something that happened in the past and may be real. As compared to if I talk about can and could, if we differentiate can and could, we have must and have to. It is used in all the, it is used for all the persons in the present and future tense. The negative sentence use must not. Either you say must not or you can say must. So must have no finite or past tense. That means, for example, I say, let me put it this way. Number 1, it is used to express obligation. For example, you have an obligation that you need to respect, or let's say obey, or maybe let's take it our elders. That means this is your obligation, you have to do this. It can also be used to express compulsion. For example, I say, you must return by. For time you use by noon. We don't write 12 p.m. We prefer to use noon. Another example where we can use must. The third case is it is used to say something that is say something is probably true as nothing else seems possible. You can expect that thing seems possible. For example, let's say, you're not able to do your homework, and all of a sudden you turn up to your teacher and tell that, there was some issue, and your teacher thinks probably his mother or father gave the teacher a call, or maybe they've passed a written notice. Then she gives it a thought, maybe it's genuine. And like you get it acknowledged from your parents that my child didn't complete his or her homework because of this and this reason. And that is when your teacher thinks that there must be some problem, because no other possibility seems to be real. Fourth case where we use is, it is used to give a very empathetic advice, personal advice where you can feel the pain as the other person does. For example, I say, you must have a doctor checkup once a year. So where do we use must is where you have an empathetic advice, you must do it. You show your concern. Second, when nothing seems possible, the only option you're left with, and then you think that okay, this must have been the case. Then we talked about where do we use must is when there's an obligation. You have to do it. Respect or obey our parents. Like we must respect or obey our parents or maybe elders. Similarly, when there's a compulsion, you must return by noon. Okay, so let's talk about two more modals on that note. Let's have it have to. It is used to express obligation. You have to do it in present, while had to do in past. By which I mean say, basically you have to refer, it's basically about an obligation. You have to express an obligation about it. There's an external obligation by some authority or maybe some under some circumstances that you have to do it. You don't have any other option. That is where you use as a compulsion. There is an obligation, especially an external obligation. I would put it this way, it is used for an external when somebody, TERNAL, when somebody instructs you, some authority instructs you to do it. Similarly, if I talk about had to, right here, let's make it simple, just you guys can forget this part. Let's talk about had to. It is again used to describe something that belongs to past. I'll give you examples for have to and had to. For example, I must reach there in time. So if I talk about, it is used to describe something in past that happened, and you have an obligation also. For example, let's first talk about have to. Let's not confuse it with had to, because otherwise you guys are going to get confused. I'm going to take up this next. First I'm going to talk about have to. Let me complete it. Okay, let's say you have to. So number one is, you told me it is used to express that obligation. For example, they have to look after their child. It's a basic obligation that society puts on you and you have to do it. You don't have any other option. Second is where you use it. It is used to give advice. For example, you have to study hard to score well. I think you can use have to in this case also. It's advice. It's you have an obligation also. Now, whatever we've covered, let's add one more modal to it. It's shall. It basically is used to express something in simple future for the first person. For example, I say, shall we meet at the bus stop? So it's something possible for the first person, you use shall. Otherwise, you can also talk about, let's say, I shall never forget your help. You're talking about the first person and you're telling this person in the simple future that I shall never. Shall is future. That you shall never forget this person who helped you. But if I talk about, on this note, if I talk about ought. Ought is used when you realize that you've done something, that you've probably not done the right thing as you ought have done it. Or maybe, let's say, you talk about, it's used to believe something in something very strongly. For example, I give you, you get up early and you ought to drink 6 to 8 glass of water daily. So when I say you ought to, that means there is something that you believe in something very strongly. Shall is generally it's used in simple future tense for the first person. But if I talk about ought means there's a compulsion here. You ought to drink 6 to 8 glass of water daily. Is it clear to everybody right here till here? Okay, so basically we've talked about ought, a little bit about ought, then we've talked about shall, we even talked about have to. That means there is an obligation and also when you have to render an advice. Then we talked about can and could. Then we talked about must. Again, an obligation and a compulsion is there. Must means you have to do it, yaar. It's an obligation also and at the same time there's a compulsion also. Then we talked in this case about could right here and also can to express permission, possibility. What else did we talk about? Ability, request. One thing we are missing on in this case, be able to. Can you just do it? If you will be able to do it, again you're talking about can. So let's try one exercise the same. Should we've covered expect. You can also express your expectation. Are you ready? The taxi should be here soon. So there are a lot of things that need to be covered. I've just given you a glimpse of it. There's so much that you can talk about on and on when you talk about modals. Let's start with this passage. So this is, you have to, there's a word has been omitted and you need to fit that word. So before I decide to talk about it, let me check what is the tense of the passage. Sometimes you don't tend to get the word that is a missing link in the first go. So what you guys can do is, or I recommend to you to do is, please read the entire paragraph or at least few lines after that particular sentence. It's going to make sense. Okay, science making rapid strides these days. That means I can see is being used here. Then I can see again is basically tells me that okay, it's something to do with the present tense. So that means I can't use strides was making, especially it's these days. So anyway, I'm going to use science is making rapid strides these days. Let's try it on. Hundreds of new products. Guys, it's products appearing in the market daily. What do you think? Products is appearing or products are appearing? Is it just one product? Had it been product, I would have used is. But there S is used, so automatically I'm going to use there are. Appearing in the daily in market daily. These products made man's life. What do you think? These products, can I say have? Because again it's an S. So these products have made man's life quite comfortable. Polythene is such product. No, is one such product. Let me see if you've covered it way before me. Is one such product which found a wide application in modern use. Which found? Which has, what do you think? Which has found. Because we don't, had it been polythenes, I would have used have. Is this polythene? So I'm using has. Polythene is one such product which has found a wide application in modern use, with the average family using 3 polythene bags day or a day. Bags a day. Polythene bags are largely being used. What do you think? It's pretty easy. Used in packaging and storing. You use in packaging and storing, and are being most widely used as, because they themselves are used, so you're comparing it as carry bags. Environmentalists have pointed the health hazards. So pointed towards, they've pointed towards the health hazards of indiscriminate use of polythene bags. Is everybody clear till here? Okay, so guys, it's time to reveal the big news. We at Vedantu are coming up with a new course, that is Vedantu Young Masters course for class 10th to 12th. JEE, yes, JEE. And for this course, the course price is 1,89,000. But trust me, if you register for the same right away, we have the lightning price. You can get lot of discount for the same, and it is going to cost you rupees 1,59,000. Isn't that a big deal? Like, really? The course is going to start, let me write when is the course going to start. It's going to start on 6th of May 2019. So the course is going to start on 6th of May. Price is good enough. We've got the best teachers. You just have to sit back at your place. You don't have to travel anywhere. You can interact with so many people on this platform who are not just from your state, but also from, entire country, across the globe. People are sitting, attending the session and really enjoying it. So why don't you just join the session, avail the lightning prize, and kickstart your preparation. So I'm going to see you next till we meet. Take care. Bye bye. And it's very, very, very important for you to respect your parents. Thank you so much, guys, for joining.